lead the line. We're going to do a picket line around his house, okay? Yeah! So are we ready to do it? Okay, let's go. Yeah, around the house.
I want y'all to line up, because I want to stop y'all all around the house. Everywhere we go! We are NACDA! We are NACDA! The mighty NACDA!
Name, huh? Bruce Marks. My name.
We will educate their children on what their parents do. Because they should be ashamed.
That's right.
They should be ashamed.
Your Honor, for many years, I operated a Ponzi scheme through the investment advisory side of my business. I knew what I was doing was wrong, indeed criminal.
Will anybody do the time?
What I was doing was wrong, knew what I was doing was wrong, knew what I was doing was wrong.
We say we live in a capitalistic society. What does that mean?
Capitalism is our way of life, the market system its highest expression. Our media hypes it in quasi-religious terms, even if its impact is sometimes quite negative and even debated in classrooms.
Can't we agree that capitalism is an economic system, a system for the production and distribution of things we need and want?
I won't agree to that. Not until you say something about government, too. There has to be a legal basis for any economic system to operate.
Most of us recognize we live in an inherently volatile system. Not problem-free, but so the conventional wisdom goes, better than any alternative. Many still believe the free market is our salvation, even as our economy has crashed, brought down not just by greed, but calculated scams and schemes that flouted the intent of our laws, enriched a few, and devastated the economy, leading to a massive loss of jobs, homes, and personal wealth. In 2006, my film In Debt We Trust warned of a coming economic collapse.
Listen, I think the next great economic crisis in this nation is going to be brought about by the debt load. It will create an economic crisis so deep that it'll threaten us as a nation.
I was called a doom and gloomer, an alarmist.
I want Daniel Schechter has just written another book called Plunder.
I followed up with a book that came out before Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. Speaking on Wall Street, I called for a jailout, not a bailout.
I used to think of Wall Street as a financial center. I now think of it as a crime scene.
Nomi Prinz was a managing partner at Bear Stearns and Goldman Sachs.
This is the most expensive takeout, the biggest crime in world history. We're talking about a crime we can't even quantify. You're talking double-digit trillions of dollars minimum.
This film will explore the scale of monies missing, written off, lost, ripped off in these various scams, and in the case of the bailout funds, unaccounted for. Graydon Carter, editor of Vanity Fair, may have summed it up best when he wrote, "It can fairly be said that the chain of catastrophic bets made over the past decade by a few hundred bankers may well turn out to be the greatest nonviolent crime against humanity in history. They brought the world's economy to its knees, lost tens of millions of people their jobs and homes, and trashed the retirement plans of a generation. And they could drive an estimated 200 million people worldwide into dire poverty. In other words, never before have so few done so much to so many. In one expert's estimate, the total money lost may reach $196.7 trillion, and that could be low."
Like millions of Americans, I've lost thousands of dollars in retirement funds, and I haven't had it as bad as many. It's not just about them. It's about me, too. I have a stake in it, and like millions, I'm angry about the way our economy was wrecked.
To help with our investigation, we spoke with convicted white-collar criminal Sam Antar.
The white-collar criminal has no legal constraints. You subpoena documents, we destroy documents. You subpoena witnesses, we lie. So you are at a disadvantage when it comes to the white-collar criminal. In effect, we're economic predators.
To an investigative reporter on the Business Beat, Wall Street steals far more than the mafia, says Gary Weiss.
Wall Street takes much larger sums of money than are involved in the mafia scams. The regulatory system is such that they can get away with it.
The lack of media scrutiny, the absence of regulation, the widespread illusion that markets and real estate could only go up created a casino mentality, an environment for successful fraudsters and white-collar criminals.
Your Honor, for many years, up until my arrest on December 11, 2008, I operated a Ponzi scheme. I knew what I was doing was wrong, indeed criminal.
White-collar crime on Wall Street has been underreported, except for a very few high-profile cases, as when hundreds of reporters staked out a New York courthouse to report Bernie Madoff's admission of guilt in his Ponzi scheme.
Millions and millions of dollars. They are also in the courtroom today, many of them incredibly angry.
I had an IRA worth $1.3 million. My other monies was about $1.8 million, and it's gone.
How do you think you got away with this for so long?
How a person can run a scam for so many years without being detected? That was one of the things I thought of. Can't be a scam. Nobody can successfully run a scam for that long.
Madoff was not alone. Regulators are now investigating scores of similar crimes. They say there is a Ponzimonium underway.
There's 4 levels in every white-collar crime. There's the guy that gives the orders, the people that take the orders, the people that knew what was going on but didn't participate, and the people that should have known what was going on, like boards of directors or auditors, but didn't participate too. What they try to do is they try to get to the culpability of the guy at the top by working from the bottom. The problem that you have in the Bernie Madoff case is they got the guy at the top first, and he's protecting the other 3 layers underneath him.
On Wall Street, a lot of the extraction tends to be very borderline legal because the people extracting tend to be the ones setting up the legal framework.
Rogue economics is what Loretta Napoleoni calls it in her new book.
Well, the reason why the line between what is criminal and what is not criminal has disappeared is because of deregulation. When you remove all the restriction, when you remove all the controls, then, of course, what is legal and what is illegal?
So you're creating a crime scene, and you're creating the crime, and you're effectively buying the police officers all at the same time, only in the form of a regulatory body or a politician for the laws that work for Wall Street.
In June 2009, the FBI said it was investigating 1,300 securities fraud cases, including many Ponzi schemes, as well as more than 580 corporate fraud cases. Most of these cases got little attention, but the media loves arch criminals like financier Bernard Madoff.
These are complicated white-collar crimes of which the government does not have the resources to thoroughly prosecute. And the white-collar criminals know it. So they set it up not as a single transaction that's a crime, but a series of transactions that once it's all put together, makes it a crime.
But to do that, you have to go beyond the prosecution of one wrongdoer and look at the way Wall Street itself became a Ponzi scheme. You have to examine a pattern, a system of criminality, which brought the investment and real estate worlds together in a multi-trillion-dollar scam. To simplify, there were three interconnected rings in this circus involving the biggest firms in the industry. It started in the real estate business, where our desire for homes, the American dream, was turned into a scheme. First, predatory subprime lending over years got people into mortgages they couldn't afford and that the lenders knew they couldn't sustain. It was enabled by artificially low interest rates, with financing provided by 25 of the top banks in the country. The second component of the crime involved what happened next, when the biggest banks and investment houses on Wall Street bought and then securitized loans as structured financial products. These mortgage bundles would be sold worldwide without full disclosure of their lack of underlying assets or the risks. The banks that bought these derivative products failed to do due diligence, relying on rating agencies that overvalued their worth and accounting firms that did not do their job. The whole process was corrupt to the core. Finally, the third level of this interconnected but decentralized criminal enterprise involved insuring these often fraudulent practices, in some cases betting against them by the very people who sold them, to guarantee that they would be protected when borrowers who couldn't afford the loans defaulted. They used insurance companies like AIG. Put these three criminal components together and a pattern emerges, a pattern of financial crime.
The financial crisis started because people could no longer afford to make payments on their subprime mortgage loan.
This is a ghost town right now, a ghost street. All of these properties have been foreclosed. All of them. Did you see anyone on this street? Nobody lives here. Nobody wants to rent here.
The housing crisis hit America like a tsunami, destroying neighborhoods and costing millions of families their homes.
That has been foreclosed. This one foreclosed. This one foreclosed. Foreclosed. Everything.
You're my bailout man.
How did it happen? Why did so many top banks lend to some of the poorest members of society in a practice known as subprime lending, featuring loans like the one called Ninja? No income, no jobs, no assets, apparently no problem. The reason? Higher fees up front and billions more when mortgages were turned into securities resold by Wall Street. 60% of the subprime borrowers could have qualified for less costly prime rates, but most were told their homes would go up in value. Many accepted onerous terms to give their families a piece of the American dream. Many, lulled into believing they could afford houses with no money down and low introductory interest rates, watched the cost of adjustable rate mortgages, or ARMs, shoot up.
When I first got it, I got a 1% introductory loan. Then my mortgage came down. The second month, it went up to 7.9. Oh. And now it's up to 9.9. And it just keeps on going up.
If I'm paying $2,800 a month for my home, I want to live next to J-Lo and Mark Anthony, not where I live.
We should not have to leave our homes, our dream, even our shelters, because of, the rates are going up so high and we don't even understand why it's going up. It's going in somebody's pocket, but not ours.
It should have been no surprise to anyone. Fraudulent lending practices resulted in a steep rise in foreclosures beginning in late 2006. Some of the biggest subprime lenders themselves later declared bankruptcy. In the news media, homeowners took most of the blame. It was said they had exercised a failure of personal responsibility. Irresponsible borrowing was stigmatized. Irresponsible lending was not. Enter the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The FBI describes its responsibility for investigating financial and mortgage fraud on its website. It is called Mortgage Fraud: An Epidemic.
They're calling it Operation Malicious Mortgage. The FBI unveiled the results of a 3.5-month probe into mortgage-related fraud. FBI Director Robert Mueller.
Through this operation, more than 400 defendants have been charged, and we have obtained 173 convictions in crimes that accounted for more than $1 billion in estimated losses.
The FBI first warned of this fraud